So good morning, everybody. Welcome to Immigration 101. My name is Christina Sargi, and I will be hosting this session for you today. We're going to start with the acknowledgement of the land, which is usually what we do in the beginning of every meeting in Canada, and also when you're watching presentations or you are in a seminar or workshops. That's what we do to acknowledge the land that we are living in, that we study and that we work on every day. So Fleming College respectfully acknowledges that we are situated on the traditional territory of the Mississauga of the Anishinaabe. Oral history teaches us that the Mississauga shared the land with the Ottawa and Huron nations before colonial contact. The Mississauga are the traditional people of the north shore of Lake Ontario and its tributaries. This has been Mississauga territory since time immemorial. We are grateful for the opportunity to work, live, and learn here in the relationships that Fleming continues to build and works to maintain in a respectful and reciprocal way. We also recognize the contributions of Métis, Inuit, and other Indigenous peoples, both in shaping and strengthening this community and a country as a whole. This recognition is connected to our collective commitment to make the promise and the challenge of truth and reconciliation real in our Fleming community. Fleming College is committed to fortifying relationships with Indigenous communities while embedding intellectual and cultural knowledge into curriculum activities and systems. So here's your support system in Canada. When you come to Canada, you have the Fleming International Student Advisors. There are three of us. As I mentioned, Rebecca, myself, Christina, and Stefania Jomite. We also have, we are all, the three of us, called Regulated International Student Immigration Advisors. And for that, we have to be on top of immigration laws, of what IRCC puts out. And also, we have to interpret what the meaning of these things are. We are part of a big group in Canada, and we are constantly trying to understand what the requirements are for you international students to be in compliant with your study permit, and we're going to talk about that in a bit, and also be in Canada, that you're not doing things that you're not supposed to do while you're studying, that you're not working. All the regulations that are come with being a study permit holder, okay? Also, we have someone called the part of the Regulated Canadian Immigration Consultants. These are above the RICIAs, which is us here at the college. They have a role that they can even represent their clients. So you will see with RICIAs, we cannot represent you, but with our CICs, they do. And also lawyers. So you have RICIAs, lawyers, and then we also have settlement agencies like the New Canadian Center, for example. And you can always find a representative, an immigration representative, by going to the College of Immigration and Citizenship Consultants, and you can find a representative for you. So when you come to the college, you are getting advisors and advice from us. But when it comes to representing only an RCIC, lawyers, or maybe going to an agency, you will find someone who will represent you, okay? So the information in this presentation is subject to change without notification. Why do we say that? Because things move so fast and decisions are made, and sometimes it's hard to keep up. So we tell the students it's very important that you are in control of the knowledge, right? So you are responsible for knowing everything that you need to know about your study permit. We're going to give you some knowledge today about what it is, but you have to keep on track. You have to keep on track of your document. If you receive your document, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to look at it. Don't put it away, right? And you have to do that by going to the RCICC website, and then it oversees Canada's immigration policy and issues a study permit and temporary resident visa extensions and related work permits in Canada. So they are responsible for issuing your documentation, but also for releasing policies, new policies, and then updating policies that are existing, right? Applications within Canada are done online. We don't do paper application. Everything is online. In some urgent cases at the border, but we are not, we have been told that the border is not accepting applications anymore, that people should not be doing that, only in special cases. So everything online. So what is the Canadian Border Service Agency, CBSA? So what do? So they monitor Canada's borders and goods, people who enter and leave Canada. And CBSA officers issue your study permit at the port of entry or border. So for example, if you're coming through Pearson Airport in Toronto, that's your border. So you will receive your study permit and your co-op work permit if you have a placement or co-op component in your program at the border. We call that a border, right? There are borders that you cross via plane, and there are also borders that you cross via car, right? And sometimes people come from the States through different borders, right? The CBSA officers are not immigration officers, so they cannot process your application at the border. They only give you or the documentation that you have already applied for, right? So they cannot issue access your application and kind of give you an immigration answer or give you a positive answer about entering Canada, right? They're there to provide your documentation, to check who you are and keep our border safe. So traveling to Canada. To travel to Canada, your study permit application must be approved, right? So you cannot travel to Canada with your application in process. It has to be approved. Once a decision is made on your study permit application, you will be asked to submit your passport to the embassy. That's how you know. And when your passport is returned to you, you'll receive a letter of introduction with it. And this is the letter that is going to, that you have to bring to Canada and show the CBSA officer, okay? That's saying, this is Christina, she's coming to Canada, she has been approved for a study permit. That the letter tells you also the date that you're coming to Canada, and there is a deadline for you to present this letter to the CBSA officer, right? So there is a deadline for you to come to Canada, and you have to get into Canada by that deadline from the letter, okay? You must have a valid temporary resident visa, TRV, or electronic travel authorization, ETA. And that depends on your country of citizenship, right? If you are from a country which requires a visa, your visa will be issued when you submit your passport to the embassy. If you require an ETA, the letter of introduction will include information about it, okay? So your temporary resident visa usually comes as a foil in your passport. I'll talk about that in a bit, and you're even going to have an idea of what it looks like. So for a list of documents to bring with you, please see the arrival services. So we have a page called Arrival Services that we created with all the list of documents that you're going to need. And also to prepare for your arrival, there's also this link for the immigration. See if you can post those two links, that would be great. If not, we'll post at the end. You'll receive those links later. So your immigration medical exam results must be valid the day you enter Canada. And it's interesting because sometimes people do their medical a while ago, right? And they applied for a bit and they were coming for a program and maybe the program was postponed, you have to be careful about that medical. If the medical is not valid, you have a problem entering Canada. Your medical needs to be valid, okay? Sia? Oh, Sia posted something, okay. Perfect, thank you so much. All right, so continue talking about traveling to Canada. At the port of entry, which may be the airport that you're coming through, you will be issued a study permit provided the custom border officer is satisfied that you meet the requirements for your stay in Canada, right? So you have to be answering truthfully to questions that they ask you. They will, require some documentation from you, and then they will judge at this spot if you are safe to come into Canada, okay? If your program has a mandatory co-op, you will need a co-op work permit. Be prepared to show the CBSA officer your co-op information page. There's a letter of acceptance that you received, and in that letter, it tells you exactly if you need a co-op or not. So if you go to that letter, you will see there's your student number is there, and there is a page, if I'm not mistaken, page number 4, and there's also a letter that tells you that you're going to need a co-op. If you didn't receive that letter, or if it doesn't say that you have a co-op, that's because your program doesn't have one. But if you do, and your letter mentions that you do have a co-op, means that you're also going to receive a co-op work permit, okay? Check your study permit and co-op work permit before leaving the airport. Why do we say that? Okay, so sometimes you're nervous and you're not paying attention to what is going on. It's very important to check your document. If you don't check your document, and I know you're like, oh, no, I won't have time. There's so many people behind me, but it only takes a minute for you to check. Your document has to have your name, your complete name spelled correctly, your date of birth. It has to say Fleming College, right? It has to say that you're coming to Fleming College, right? And also has to say a few other things, like it doesn't have to have any restrictions. It should say that you can work in Canada on and off campus. We're going to go through those details there, but you have to check your document. Make sure your document is correct. There's these remarks of off-campus work, right? And there's no restrictions in your study permit. So sometimes it will say, oh, you're not allowed to work in a school environment, right? If you're not allowed to work in a school environment and you're coming for a program that you're going to be working with a school, now that's a problem, right? Of course, if something like this happens and the officer says to you, we cannot correct it now, do not panic. That's why we are here, okay? So we will help you to correct those errors. But it's easier if you tell politely to the officer and say, hey, by the way, I do have a co-op work permit and I didn't receive one, and it's here in my offer letter. So if you show your offer letter and mention to them that they forgot to give you a document, they will likely issue to you right then and there. If there's a mistake in your name, they can correct it there as well. It's not worth it to leave the airport with, some errors that are so easy to correct. Okay, so make sure that you're checking that. It must say Fleming College. Sometimes officers make a mistake, and it's not common, but we have seen that another institution's name come in that college. It happens especially if you apply for another college before and then change your mind and came to Fleming. So sometimes it does happen that it comes with it. So this is very important. If it doesn't say Fleming College, you're going to wait until another document is issued. So make sure that you check your document. Check, 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 check. Okay. All right, so what's a study permit, right? The study permit is the document that gives you status in Canada. It's not a visa, but it says you are a student. Do not lose the date of your study permit. Keep that in your mind. Put that in your phone when you receive it. You need to know when your study permit expires, and do not let it expire, okay? You cannot study at Fleming without one, okay, except for the English language programs. Those students specifically can study without a study permit, but all our programs require that you have a study permit that is valid for the entire duration. Sometimes it may happen that your study permit, you're going to receive it with a shorter duration. And that is because the officer wants you to maybe provide some more documentation after you arrive, right? It happens. And if it does, do not panic. As I said, we are here to support you and we'll help you to extend your study permit, okay? You cannot study at Fleming without one, so remember that you always have to have a study permit to study. You don't have one and it's not valid, you cannot study. It doesn't say Fleming, you cannot study, you cannot start your studies. It is required to study in Canada for programs over 6 months in length. So your program is more than 6 months, you need a study permit. It is issued at a port of entry by the Canada Border Service offices. As I mentioned, when you cross the border and you come through Pearson Airport, for example, or any other airport, they will give it to you, and does not guarantee entry to Canada. So what guarantees your entry to Canada is your TRV. So your TRV is your document that allows you to enter in Canada. Your study permit allows you to study in Canada, okay? And the expiry date must be longer than your studies, ideally the maximum of 90 days. So there is an extra 90 days added to your study permit so that you can, maybe apply for a post-graduation work permit after you graduate, right? So usually they give you an extra time. If they don't give you that extra time, don't worry about it. We are here to support you all the way. And another thing, do not lose it. Make a copy. And how you do that is you take a picture and you keep it in your phone, send to your mom, send to your parents, so that somebody has it. You need to have a copy of it. And it's a very important document. We had students that came and lost their documents, unfortunately, and they had a copy of the study permit, but you need your study permit to study. Okay, make a copy and keep it safe. All right. So this is a sample of your study permit. I know it's kind of small and you cannot see everything, but you can watch this recording and you will receive one just like this. Okay. So as I said, check your study permit for details of your name before leaving the airport. So your personal details, the institution name, it has to say, must say Fleming College. Make sure there's a remark saying you are allowed to work on and off campus. So that's another one. You want to work while you are studying, not too much, but you do. You want to work up to 24 hours per week. And check also if there are restrictions. Under conditions, if there are restrictions saying that you're not allowed to work in certain fields. If that happens and you're, or you're not allowed to work or something like that, it can be a problem, right? So this is just a sample. You will see in the remarks, it says may accept employment on and off campus. It should have that, right? It should also, the first three, like must leave Canada by a certain date, not valid for employment in business related to the sex trade, that's normal to appear, and may accept employment is also one that will be there. So check your document before you leave the airport. Okay, so let's talk about the medical. Remember I said to you that the moment that you enter Canada, your medical needs to be valid. So one, this document is necessary when you enter Canada, right? It's only valid for 1 year. And it's funny because sometimes people check the date under a client identity detail. And this date over here is the passport information, right? And your passport sometimes is valid for a long time. So they think the medical is valid for a long time. It's not. Usually there is a visit date. That's the date that the document was issued. You count that date 1 year forward, and that's the validity of your immigration medical exam. Sometimes that date comes at the top, and sometimes it's at the bottom of the document. It will say also date of the visit. So pay attention to that and make sure that your immigration medical exam is valid, okay? So it's also, the medical is also necessary when you're applying for study permit extension, co-op work permit, and also your PGWP. So you will see later when you apply for extension, if you need one, that you're going to need your medical as well. And without the medical exam, you may receive your document with restrictions, especially for those programs that require that you work with children or work in hospitals. It will, if it's not valid, it will show. So for you to enter Canada, and this is for later, by the way, for you to enter Canada, your document, your immigration medical exam must be valid within a year. So count that day and check that is valid. All right, so speak with a student advisor as soon as possible. And we are here to support you. As I mentioned, Stefania, myself, Christina, and Rebecca, we are here to support you with your questions. But speak with us if your documents include restrictions, remarks, or conditions you don't understand, or you have questions about your documents as they relate to your program of study. So we ask students, make sure that you come see us, even if it's just for a quick visit. Hey, can you check my study permit and my co-op work permit? Check. Because we have seen students in the past who come and they actually who don't come, don't talk to us, and then they discover they have restrictions when they are about to go on placement, or they discover there is a restriction when they're about to start their studies, right? And it's a problem. So the sooner we correct those problems, the better. We are here to support you. And also, if your program has a mandatory placement, co-op, or internship, and you did not receive a co-op, the first thing you have to do is come and talk to us, okay? So if you talk to the officer and they said, no, we are not gonna give you the co-op, it may happen. Hopefully not, but hopefully you're gonna say, hey, by the way, I do have a co-op, here's my offer letter, right? And it's there, and they give you right then and there. But let's say that they don't, and you did not receive, make sure that you come talk to us, okay? We'll help you to get that document. As I said, do not panic. We are here to support you. All right. All right, so what's the difference between letter of introduction, port of entry letter of introduction, which is the same, another name that we call it, and your study permit? So the letter of introduction, as I mentioned to you, it's a letter that is issued by Immigration Canada introducing you to the immigration officer. This letter is required at the airport of entry for the officer to issue the study permit when you first enter Canada, right? So it has your information saying that you're a student and that you're coming to Canada, and it's introducing you, right? And this study permit is a document you receive when you enter Canada and allows you to study as a foreign national, received at the border when entering Canada. So the moment you cross the border, they will give you the study permit, and that's the document that is going to allow you to study. Okay. TRV, we talk about the temporary resident visa, right? So the TRV is a counterfoil placed in the passport. It's like a sticker, and there is also dates in that sticker, expiry dates that it was issued, right? And it's issued before departure for Canada to show they have met the requirements for admissions to Canada as a temporary resident. So it will show the officer that you have a visa to enter Canada. Remember, I said to you that the study permit does not allow you to enter. It is the TRV that does. So it should be in your passport. And it is a travel document, right? And allows you re-entry into Canada sometimes, and most of you will have that, multiple entry. So we will say multiple entry. That means you can come in and go back home and come back again. For you to do that, your TRV must be valid. Not all countries require the TRV, right? Some of them, they are visa exempt, and then you're going to need an ETA, okay? And it's a different document. Usually issued for the same duration as the study permit, but can be extended. So you will see that your study permit and your TRV will have the same date. One of the things that I have to call your attention right now is make sure that when you come with your passport, that your passport is valid for a long time. Because if your passport is not valid for the entire duration of your studies, they will give you the study permit expiry date when your passport expires. So it's good to have a passport that is valid for a long time, right? And it does not guarantee entry into Canada. Why do we say that? Because although the document is for your entry, it is the CBSSA officer who is going to make a decision about you entering to Canada or not. So it's during that short interview that they're going to have with you at the border that they're going to determine that you're going to enter, okay? And it's not a study permit. So this is what it looks like, and you will see there is number of entries, multiple. There's your passport number. Also say what you are. You're a student, that's your status, and the expiry date is right there, right? This is the final date that you must enter Canada, and it's not the length of the visit, okay? And here's the UCI. People say, oh, what is UCI? UCI is the number of your study permit that you're going to use. It's like your process when you are applying for a study permit to come to Canada. UCI is the number of your protocol, like a protocol number. Okay. So what's your responsibility as an international student? This is very important. This is crucial for you to understand. Because most people don't understand and they go, oh, I didn't know. Yes, you need to know. This is very important, and I'm going to slow down to go step by step on this. As an international student with a study permit, you must always be enrolled at a designated learning institution. That means Fleming College. If you're coming to Fleming, you need to be registered. You cannot be having gaps that you decide to have. Okay, you have to be registered. You have to be enrolled, right? You have to make progress towards finishing your study program. Some people come to Canada, they think, oh, I'm gonna work, yay. No. Your main goal in Canada is to study. That's why you're receiving a study permit. Make that a priority. And it's not just because you're here that you're studying, but also for the future. Remember, if you're going to continue in Canada, you want to live here, your studies are going to be very important. You're going to be competing with a lot of people that will be also studying, who are probably going to apply for the same jobs as you. So your main goal is to study. Respect the conditions listed on your study permit. If your study permit says you are not allowed to work, you should not be engaging in work. Okay, if your study permit says you're only allowed to work in 24 hours per week during your studies, your academic session, that's what you have. Do not go above that, okay? So you have to respect the conditions listed in your study permit. Okay, you need to stop studying and working if you no longer meet the requirements, right? If your study permit expires, for example, you are not allowed to study. You are not allowed to work. You're not allowed to go on placement if you don't have a co-op. So all those things you have to keep in mind. They're very important to respect the conditions of your study permit. And leave Canada when your permit expires. Of course, we are going to help you to extend your study permit if you need to. There are other ways you're going to stay in Canada, like your post-graduation work permit. But if your study permit expires, right, and you did not extend before it expires, one of the options is to leave Canada, right? We don't want you to leave. We want you to finish your study. So it's very important to keep on top of your study permit. That's the most important document you have. You have to know when it expires. You have to know your conditions. You have to keep that document as a picture in your phone, so you're constantly checking and not letting it expire, okay? And apply for a study permit extension if needed. Set a reminder on your phone. Get your study permit, set a reminder 3 months before it expires. Do not let it expire. I cannot stress that enough. Okay, if your study permit expires, you are not going to study. You have to wait until another one is issued to you, and sometimes it can take some time, and your studies are going to be jeopardized. Okay, so make sure that you are always checking that date, okay, on top of your documents. Extending your study permit. You can extend your study permit for further study, and you will need recent documentation such as your offer letter, letter of support from records, and we will provide that to you when it's time. We have support for you. We have websites, and we'll help you with the process. If you change your designated learning institution, you must obtain a new study permit before starting your new program using a study permit extension process. So with the new rules, they are making it difficult for you to change your schools. So we don't recommend the students to be changing your schools, because you're going to be a period without studying, and it may take a long time for you to change. So hopefully you're not going to need to do that, right? But if you do, you're going to need to do that before your study permit expires and before your program starts with another institution, if that's the case. We hope not. Extending our study permit 1 additional year, we require proof of funds, right? And that means you would have to be providing in your application that you paid for 2 semesters of tuition and that you have 20,635 Canadians for living costs. And that's for a 1-year extension. Okay, so you need to prove that you have that money, and also you need to prove that you paid for 2 semesters of tuition. So extending your study permit also it is costly, right? To prove all that. Okay, you're going to need to apply online, create an account with our RCC. And we do have video tutorials for you. We are here to support you as well with your extension if needed, okay? Hopefully you will not. Again, add your study permit expiry date minus 90 days. So count 90 days backwards to your calendar, to your phone calendar as a reminder. This way, you're not going to miss a deadline to extend it. Once again, I'm going to emphasize that do not let your study permit expire. This is very important. Changes to your academic plan. Switching programs, illness, financial problems, failing courses, especially due to academic integrity. You're going to learn about academic integrity also during orientation. So academic integrity violations can all cause changes to your academic plan and require you to extend your study permit, because if you fail a course, that course may be not offered and you may have to extend your study permit. So it happens, right? Part-time study or gaps in study may make you ineligible for the post-graduation work permit. May make you ineligible. Why? Because for post-graduation work permit, you're not allowed to have gaps, and you have to be full-time in every semester, okay? Except for your last semester, in which you can be part-time. So you have to be full-time all the time. I will explain that, giving you a scenario. Make sure to connect with your coordinator or international student services before things get out of control. A lot of students come to us after the fact, you know, they don't look for the supports that Fleming offers students for their studies. The library has support. We have supports for you. So if you feel overwhelmed, or if you're not going well in your studies, you feel like you're falling behind, do not let it go too far, okay? Come and talk to us. We'll help you find the right tools, the right support to help you, okay, succeed. Working on campus, that's good news, right? So you may work without a work permit on your school campus where you are studying, if you, so this is key, 1, you are a full-time post-secondary student at a public post-secondary school such as college or university or CEGEP in Quebec. You are at a Canadian private school that can legally award degrees under provincial law, and they have to be listed as a DLI, and have a valid study permit with working conditions, and there's no limit to the hours you can work on campus. So you can work on campus If your study permit says you can, so on and off campus remarks, your study permit is valid and you are a full-time student working at Fleming College. So that's good news and no limit of hours. Now, let's talk about working off campus, right? So working off campus is a little bit different. You may work off campus without a work permit, so you don't need a work permit, just your study permit. If you have a valid study permit, you are a full-time student, so you need to be full-time, okay, at a DLI, which is Fleming College, except as part-time student in final semester. So if you're full-time all the time, but your last semester is part-time to complete courses, you are still allowed to work, right? You have started studying in Canada, right? So you're studying, so you're currently studying. You are in a program that leads to a degree, diploma, or certificate and is at least 6 months long. So it has to be more than 6 months. You have a social insurance number, and which you're going to get one when you come to Canada. We're also going to have a session about the SIN. And your study permit must list one of these conditions. Remember I said if these conditions are not there, you're not allowed to work under your study permit. So it has to say, may you work 24 hours per week off campus or full-time during regular breaks if meeting criteria outlined in section 186V of the ERPR. May accept employment on and off campus if meeting eligibility criteria as per our 186FV or W, must cease working if no longer meeting this criteria. So usually there is something similar to this in your study permit. That's what allows you to work, okay, the 24 hours. And students in ELB cannot work off campus, only on campus if they are full-time, okay? So for ELB is different, right? Working off-campus hours. So if you meet the requirements mentioned in the last slide, you may work. So when you start your studies, not before, oh, I arrive in Canada, I'm gonna work. No, 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 no. You have to wait until you start your studies. Okay, you may not work until you start it. So up to 24 hours per week during an academic term and full-time during scheduled breaks. Scheduled breaks are usually your reading week, Christmas break, summer break for some programs. Some programs, they go all the way. They don't have an official break, so you're not allowed to work for breaks that you make yourself. It has to be official break from the school, okay? And once again, I want to tell you, do not make work your priority. Your priority is studying. So keep up with your studies so that you are able to work, right, during your studies, but also work after, right? It's not going to impact your PGWP, your post-graduation work permit. Exceeding these hours, so the 24 hours during the school academic year, exceeding these hours is a violation of your study permit conditions and negatively impacts future immigration applications. So again, your priority is to study, not to work. Social insurance number, we all have them, and it's necessary for you to work. You are going to apply for your SIN online, by mail, or in person, on campus, or at a Service Canada location. We're going to have a representative on campus. We'll let you know the exact date. And there's no fee to apply for a social insurance number, right? And remember, through your SIN, when you work for any employers, they are informing how many hours you're working. So once again, it's no good to work more than 24 hours, right? So as I mentioned, you have to make sure that you're complying with your study permit conditions. That's very important. Do not go above those 24 hours. And let's talk about the regularly scheduled breaks, because we talk about unofficial and official breaks, or we call regularly scheduled breaks are your official breaks, okay? So academic schedule lists all term dates, holidays, independent learning weeks. So when you are at Fleming and you go to your portal, you will see that there's an academic schedule. It lists all the breaks. Everything is there, All right. So follow your academic schedule to know the breaks. If you're in doubt, you can ask your coordinator. They will also confirm when your program will have a break. Okay. Not all programs have scheduled semester breaks. As I mentioned, some programs will go without break. Okay. And some others will have a summer break. So it depends on the program. Unscheduled breaks or unofficial breaks have negative impact on your PGWP eligibility, and you cannot work during an unscheduled break. So let's say that you do have a problem, and sometimes it happens, right? That you have to go home. So you have a break in studies, right? And then you come back and you're not in school, right? If that happens before you go, right? Or before you have a problem, before let's say there's an emergency, come talk to us. We are going to instruct you how to deal with that break that you're going to have, okay? It's not official, but something's happening, and we are going to help you to deal with that situation, okay? For PGWP, you need to be, remember, full-time all the time, except for your last semester, in which you can be part-time. You may work full-time during regularly scheduled breaks or what we call official breaks if you meet the conditions. What conditions? Your study permit condition. It has to say you can work. If you become a part-time student, you cannot work. I'll repeat, part-time students cannot work. So if you fail a course and you drop to part-time, you're not allowed to work, okay? If you're going to drop for part-time, come talk to us. We're going to help you understand how maybe you can be full-time a student. We can help you to become full-time by doing other things, by giving you some options, okay? But your job is to pass all your courses, make sure you're not part-time, and it happens. So we're going to talk about that in many of the sessions. We're going to talk about not becoming part-time student, right? And what options you have. If it's your final semester and you're just completing a course, it's fine to be part-time. I mentioned that to you. And you're even allowed to work if your study permit says you can. But you have to have maintained full-time status, right? Up until the final semester. So you see the pattern. We talk about full-time, full-time, full-time. That means your studies are a priority, as I mentioned. So let's talk about the co-op work permit. Some people talk about co-op work permit, and the placement, co-op work permit and placement. These are words that we use here at Fleming College. If you are in a program with a mandatory field or clinical placement, or they call also internship or co-op, check for your letter of acceptance. It says that if your program has one, your coordinator can also confirm that, and you're going to have a meeting with them as you arrive at Fleming College. And you can check if you require a co-op or not to work full-time during your placement, up to the number of mandatory co-op hours. So your co-op, and I'm going to show you the document in a few minutes, your co-op will have as employer Fleming College, and will say that you can work. This is a different document than your study permit. Remember, your study permit we talked, you can only work up to 24 hours per week during the academic schedule and full-time during official break. But your co-op will allow you to work full-time for the employer that Fleming College chooses for you. So your co-op, you're going for placement. For example, nurses go for placement in a hospital, and they have a certain amount of hours that they have to complete their placement. So the co-op will take care of those hours, okay? This document is not the document authorizing you to work on and off campus. So as I said, only for placement, only for co-op, for internships. Fleming College must be listed as an employer, right? So if it doesn't list Fleming College or list another college, you are not able to go on placement. Come talk to us. So it has to mention Fleming College on the co-op work permit. And if you have a co-op work permit issued for a different institution, you will need to apply for and obtain a new one. You cannot go for placement with this co-op that doesn't mention Fleming, okay? You can only use this permit for placements approved by your Fleming College, but by your college. If you have a mandatory placement and were not issued a co-op at the border office, remember we talked about that, it may happen. It is important to apply for one early. And I'm going to tell you once again, once you arrive at Fleming, come visit us so we can check your documents, your study permit, your co-op work permit. We want to see that everything is correct. You don't want to leave it for later. Okay, you want to check when you come. And we have also video tutorials, very easy to follow on how to apply for different things, such as the co-op or study permit extension, etc. Okay. All right. Sometimes the co-op work permit comes with restrictions. That's why we say check your documents. We can check for you as well. Does it list restrictions regarding where you can work? Does it say not authorized to work in childcare, primary, secondary school teaching, health service field occupations? If it does, and if your placement will involve vulnerable populations such as elderly, children, etc., you will need to obtain a new co-op work permit without those restrictions. Okay? Please contact an international student advisor as soon as you notice that there are restrictions, and this will affect your placement. So you may not be able to go on placement. Actually, you will not be able to go on placement if you have those restrictions, right? And this process of getting a new co-op takes time. Sometimes correcting the document takes time. So as soon as you arrive, show us your documents. So I talked before about the post-graduation work permit, right? Which is the work that you receive after you graduate. I'm going to talk about what is the eligibility criteria for that. So you can apply for PGWP if you hold a valid temporary status or have left Canada and submit the application no later than 180 days from program completion. So you have up to 180 days to apply for PGWP. Okay, and you need to hold a temporary status. That means your study permit needs to be valid. That's why I said check your study permit validity. It's important to know that date. Always know that date. Temporary status, study permit is still valid. You have a valid visitor record. You submit an application to extend your study permit before it expired, and no decision has been made on your application. Sometimes because it's going to expire, you send the study permit, you request a study permit extension, you can apply for a PGWP while you wait to maintain status, okay? Or you submit an application to change your status to a visitor before your study permit expired and no decision has been made on the application, right? Sometimes the students have to do that. I'm not going to go into details, but to change into a visitor. But there are some cases that you do have to do that. And these are the eligibility criteria. Also, we talked about completing a study. So you have to have completed to apply for PGWP at a designated learning institution, which is Fleming College is an example. That was at least 8 months in duration. So it cannot be a short program. It has to be at least 8 months. And that also led to a degree, diploma, or certificate in a study field linked to certain occupations in long-term shortage. So you know already that certain programs are not eligible for PGWP. So it needs to be eligible for PGWP. Also, now with the new rules for PGWP, you must prove your English language skills with a minimum level of Canadian language benchmark CLB 5 in English. So when you're applying, you need to do a test. And this test has to be a benchmark or CLB 5 in English, right? And this is very important. I'm going to repeat that again. It's funny how many times I repeat this. For PGWP, it's important that you are a full-time student in Canada during every semester. So each semester from first, let's say, to the fourth, and let's say you have 5 semesters, first to the fourth, you are full-time. In the fifth semester, you're going to be part-time. That's fine because you're completing maybe a course that you failed, and that's your last semester. Then it's okay. But if you have been part-time in between semesters or you had a gap in studies, you're not eligible for PGWP. This is very important. That's why I said studies are important, and that's your goal, to complete your studies and then get PGWP at the end, you need to be full-time all the time passing your courses, right? The higher marks you have, the better chances you're gonna have for work as well, right? And in your resume, it will look good. So graduated from one of the following: a public post-secondary school such as college, trade, technical school, university, or CEGEP in Quebec, a private post-secondary school in Quebec that operates under the same rules as public schools in Quebec, a private secondary or post-secondary schools in Quebec that offers qualifying programs of 900 hours or longer that leads to a diplôme d'études professionnelles, DEP, or an attestation de spécialisation professionnelle, ASP, and ASP can be less than 900 hours if it's combined with a DEP. A Canadian private school that can award degrees under provincial law, for example, associate, bachelor's, master's, or doctorate degree, but only if you are enrolled in a study program that leads to a degree as authorized by the province. Okay, so all this eligibility also for PGWP are there. You're not eligible for PGWP if you already received a PGWP. PGWP is a one-time deal. If you apply, that's it. That goes your chance, right? So that's why sometimes the students complete 2 programs before they can apply. And some people apply with just 1 program. Once you apply, that's it. And PGWP cannot be extended. It's you receive it, that's it, okay? Studied English or French as a secondary language. So students who are just studying French or English are not eligible for PGWP. You took general interest or self-improvement courses or preparatory programs. So if you are just doing a course or something like that, doesn't count for PGWP. Okay, only if it's a 8 months duration and leads to a degree, certificate, etc. If you did not maintain full times except for the final semester, so I'm repeating that again, you need to be full-time all the time, passing your courses. If you had gaps in studies, you're also not eligible. So in semesters in which you're not studying or you're taking a break on your own, not a break that is official by the school, you're also not eligible. You participated in the Government of Canada Awards Program funded by Global Affairs Canada. It is not eligible. Had funding from Global Affairs Canada. If you got a study in Canada scholarship, you are still eligible for PGWP, but if you're in the Global Affairs Canada program funded by Global Affairs Canada, you're not. You got an Equal Opportunity Scholarship, Canada-Chile, participated in the Canada-China Scholars Exchanges Program. That's not also allowed, or not. You're not eligible. Participated in the Organization of American States Fellowship Programs, completed the majority of a study program by distance learning. So distance learning is a problem, online courses, e-learning or correspondence, you're not eligible. Or completed a study program at a non-Canadian institution located in Canada. So if you're doing a program here that is not, it's a not Canadian institution, but you're studying in Canada, you're not eligible for PGWP. A lot of information, isn't it? I know it's a lot of information. What you have to keep in mind: 1, be a full-time student all the time, except for your last program, right? Check your documents at entry. Make sure you don't, you record somewhere the expiry date of your study permit and do not let it expire, right? And 3, make sure you do not take any gaps in studies between programs. I'm going to go through the scenarios. Don't put your questions yet. Hold your questions, please. And don't put your questions more than once in the chat. I'm going to continue. Through the scenarios, you're going to understand what I'm talking about. Okay, so let's take, for example, Supriya, who is a biotechnology. She's in biotechnology advanced program. It has 5 semesters. Let's say that she studied in fall 2022, and she studied well. She's a good student. She continues study as a full-time student in winter. She also went through summer break, and she is considered full-time during summer if it's an official break. She continues studying in the fall 2023 as a full-time student, winter 2024, also full-time. She had another summer break that was official. It was in her schedule to have that summer break. And she continued studying in the fall, never failed a semester. She was a very good student, and continued studying. And guess what? She graduated in winter 2025. Her study permit is going to expire soon. And she applied for PGWP before her study permit expired. That's very important. Remember, I talked about documents being still valid. Within those 180 days. You have 180 days to apply for PGWP. She maintained her status as a student, so she applied and she maintained her status. That means she was still, if you apply before study permit expires, you maintain your status in Canada, so you don't lose your status. If you let it expires, you lose your status. So she maintained her status, and then she had her PGWP approved. This is a great situation of someone who studied hard, right? And although she was eligible for work, which she was in her time, I'm just going to continue here. So she was eligible in each semester, including during the summer break, because it was official. So she was allowed to work full time, right? So during the school academic year, she worked part-time up to 24 hours right now, and she worked full-time during the summer break. She continued to work, so she was eligible to work all the way. Summer break again, she was able to work full-time, and she continued to be eligible, okay? Once she applied for PGWP, because she was in maintained status, she bumped up her hours and she started working full-time, and that's because her study permit was still valid. If her study permit had expired, then it would have been a problem, right? She would have to wait and all. We'll talk about that if you enter, but I know that you're gonna make sure that you have your expired date of your study permit in your phone, and you're gonna remember to extend your study permit before it expires, okay? So she has a very, very good situation. She was an excellent student, and that's what I hope you're gonna be as well. Now, I'm gonna show you another situation. Please do not take it personal if your name is Johnny, yeah? But Johnny came to Canada with a different agenda, right? He came, he said, you know what, I'm going to another country, and my parents are not watching me, so I'm gonna have a party. You know, I'm gonna party, I'm gonna work. So he started well in the beginning of his studies, studying, etc. However, he had an academic integrity, so he cheated in one of his tests and failed one of his courses. When this happens, and your course has, for example, prerequisites for a course that is for a course or courses that are continuing the second semester, now you're going to be experiencing not being able to complete courses that you need. So it's very important that you maintain your studies, that you're constantly looking for support while you're studying at Fleming. So he failed that course, right? He was full-time, and that course is only gonna be offered, now look at that, in fall 2022. So he's gonna have to wait 2 semesters before he can complete that course, right? And this can start a very, very big snowball, okay? You will see. So because of that course, he couldn't continue 2 courses in the winter, so he was still full-time because he had some courses. Those courses are going to be offered later. And that starts a snowball of things. He was still full-time because he had 5 courses. Sometimes you have to check if you're full-time or part-time. Do not be part-time. If you notice you are, come to talk to us before you do. And then in the summer, he had a summer break. You know what he did? He went on vacation. Yes, he was still considered full-time. He went on vacation instead of studying and maybe, you know, figuring out what he was going to do, but he wanted to party. Yeah. In the fall, he came back. He had another failed course, which was going to be offered later. He was scheduled to complete his program in the fall 2023, but things start getting a little bit complicated. You follow me? Yes. So winter, the same thing. He had some courses. He failed 2 more. He could not. He added some more courses from previous semester. He was full-time, but he is failing, right? And as he fails, it complicates. Summer break, he's so worried. He's worried about his family, what his family is going to think about all this. He doesn't want to share that information. He is completely overwhelmed, and it happens when people don't talk to us in the beginning of when things start happening. He was overwhelmed. He was not feeling well. Although he was considered full-time, he was not really feeling good about himself, right? In the fall, he comes back, and he comes back part-time. He is actually going to see a counselor. He is, went to the hospital with anxiety. I know I'm kind of going overboard here, but it happens, right? It happens, and it's serious. When you start failing courses, you don't look for support, you are in a pickle, as we say, right? And then on top of that, his study permit was expiring as well, right? And he, because it was in that turmoil of things happening to me, overwhelmed, he forgot, and his study permit expired. So now he comes and talks to us. It happens many times that students forgot to look for support in the beginning, and they do not talk to us, and we cannot help you when the situation is way past help, right? Of course, we are here to support you, and we will find ways of helping you, but wouldn't it be easier if he had looked for help in the beginning, right? So there you go. He's part-time. He's not allowed to work. He was actually sending money home, which was not a very good idea because he was poorly looking after himself here. He became sick, ill, and we supported him. We gave him some support. He was not able to work because he was part-time during that period. And as much as we tried to help him, there was no way he could be full-time. So in the summer, he finally, had a breakdown, and he was not in school, right? And that is serious, and it may happen, right? It may happen if you're not careful. But as things improve and he looked for help and he was in counseling, he came for support from us. He comes back in the fall 2024 full-time, and he resumes his study, right, and eventually graduating. In terms of work, you will see that in the beginning he was able to work because he was full-time, but in the summer break, he was not able to work because he was off and it was not an official break. In the fall, he was part-time. He was not able to work until he came back in the fall 2024. So Johnny is an extreme situation, and we show this situation because we don't want you to get to this point. We tell students, when you start feeling that you're not following your classes, that you are falling behind, there are enough support at Fleming. There's your coordinators, there are us here at International, right? There are peer tutoring. You're going to have the library. There's so many support. There's no need for you to get into your Johnny situation, okay? And once again, your study is your priority, not working, right? So for you to get your PGWP at the end, you need to have been full-time all the time and only part-time in your last semester to complete courses. Of course, sometimes there's something you don't understand and you're going to fail a course, but pay attention to the courses that you should give a lot of emphasis in your studies because they are prerequisites for you to continue to the next semester, okay? All right, so how can I avoid Johnny struggles? Cheating, copyright violations, and plagiarism are frequent reasons why students fail courses. Do not cheat. Do not help others cheat. Sometimes, in your country, it's okay to share things with other students. Sorry about that. I just had a drop a bottle here. Anyways, so back. Do not cheat, do not help others cheat. Cheating in Canada is big, okay? Sharing Doing work for other people is big. You hear about this in academic integrity, right? In certain countries is okay. Here in Canada is not. So be careful about that. Make sure you use tutoring or be a tutor for others. If you're good at it, if you're good in math and people need help for math, why not, right? You make money as well. You can work on campus. Talk early to your professor coordinator if you are struggling. If you're struggling, talk to your coordinator. Your professors are going to help you. Maybe put together to study with somebody, right? If you're facing life challenges or financial difficulties, contact one of our advisors, okay? We are here to support you, and sometimes it happens, right? You are in a country, it's normal that you're feeling overwhelmed sometimes, right? I felt overwhelmed when I came to Canada. It's important to look for help. You're not alone. We are here to support you, okay? We'll connect with the right supports. Do not leave until the last minute. Don't be a Johnny, right? Make sure that you are being helped, right? If you need to be progressing, you always need to be progressing in your courses, right? Moving from one semester to another. Failed courses may lead to gaps, right? Or academic probation. There's 3 levels of academic probation. Marcia is going to talk about that in the academic integrity session with you, right? It's all about, your work when you are presenting your assignments, right? It's your tests, right? In Canada, we do not cheat. Cheating or sharing your work with other people is not allowed, right? You can cite, you're going to learn about all this. I don't have to talk about that. But there's academic probation, there's suspensions. Sometimes you're going to be suspended if you continue to cheat, right? So you don't want to be in that situation. And sometimes suspensions can last 6 months. And if it does, right? Now, as an international student, you are in a difficult situation, right? Because international students cannot have a gap in studies, right? And this may impact your eligibility for PGWP, okay? Do not your study permit expired. I repeat that many times. Make sure you add a reminder to your phone or your calendar, whatever you have, 90 days before it expires, and come and talk to us so that we can help you to extend it, right, if you need an extension. Comply with the conditions of your study permit. Only work if you're allowed to. If your study permit doesn't say you are allowed to work, do not work, okay? Come and talk to us. Your priority should be study anyways, right? Not work. And when in doubt, always connect with us. As I said, as soon as you arrive in Canada, the first thing you have to do is come and show us your study permit or your cooperative work permit if you have one. We're going to check to see if everything is correct. You should check that at the airport as well before you leave. Remember, we talked about that. So check your documents before you leave, correct them there if it's possible, and if it's not, come talk to us, right? But if you pass, and sometimes you just receive the document and you forget because you're so, excited arriving in Canada that you may not check. Make sure you do check. But if you don't, we'll check it for you. Okay, make sure you connect with us. Can I do my application on my own? Yes, ISS has step-by-step video tutorials, easy to follow for every single application, from study permit to co-op to PGWP, okay? Do not apply last minute, as chances to make a mistake are high. People trying to make the application the last day is terrible because you forget your document. Sometimes you forget and you provide wrong information, and that can cause problems, right? And sometimes there is a difference of time as well. If you apply on the next day, the time for the application may differ from the time of your province. So that could be also a problem, right? You want to start the process 90 days before your study permit expires. And again, when in doubt, contact us. Contact us anyways, right? We want to hear from you. Always include an explanation letter and support documentation. You have to read the instructions carefully. Some people do not read, right? You receive an email, you read the first sentence and you panic, you don't read the rest of the email. Sometimes the email explains what you have to do. Start getting used to messages are not texts, right? You have to read the message carefully. check what the message is asking. Always include an explanation when you're applying for your extension, for your PGWP or co-op work permit, and include the support documentation. If you have any questions, make sure to use the RCC Help Center. They have a phone number that you can call. You can book an appointment with us for International Student Services Advisors. We are here to support you. You can come in person. We are in C2100 here at Fleming College. There is a website for you, and I'm going to ask Sia to post the links to our website, International Student Services. You have all the immigration tutorials there. And you can contact us via email and also read our weekly updates. Once you are at Fleming, every Friday we send updates, and we are calling you for different activities. We also giving you information about new rules or new policies that are out there. Sometimes we are promoting things that you're going to do in the community so that you're not feeling lonely when you are in Canada and you're feeling welcomed and adjusted to your new country, right? All right. So thank you so much for sticking with the presentation, not going away. I'm going to open the floor for some questions. Most of the questions we answered during the presentation. I hope that you kept the information, the key information. Of course, there's a lot of information for you to memorize. And key for you is when you come to Canada, when you arrive, make sure, well, I'll start from the beginning. Again, 1, check your documents when you arrive in Canada at the border, right? And try not to leave without the documents that you need, right? 2, when you arrive in Canada, come and talk to us so that we can check your documentation. 3, make sure you attend all the webinars. Make sure you are attending the academic integrity session workshop we are putting for you in person here on May 1st. Make sure you're here, that you're attending those sessions. They're very important information. Make sure you're looking for help when you need it, right? And don't be afraid to speak up. Sometimes we're afraid, we are in a different country, different culture. Make sure you say, I don't know this. Can you explain to me? We are here to support you. ISS is here for you. So we're going to start with questions. Only remember to post your question once. And I'll try to answer as much as possible.
I think our first question was, as I had got visa after getting, I'm assuming they received their visa stamp and then they had to change their program. What type of question should I expect at immigration?
Okay, so obviously the immigration officer is going to ask for your offer letter. Your offer letter will say that you changed programs, or sometimes you had to change programs because the program was canceled. So you're going to explain, you're going to be honest with the officer and tell the officer your reasons. You should never lie about anything when you are entering Canada. Right? So tell your reasons and you'll be fine. Okay? And show the correct documentation. Just bring the correct documentation with you. And Sia had put the Arrival Services website before the link. And that website mentions all the documents and what to expect when entering Canada in one of our borders. So all the information is there as well.
Perfect. Thank you, Chris.
No problem.
There's a question about study permit and co-op work permits. Both have to be issued at the border.
Yes, so it's optimal that both documents are issued at the border, right? The study permit for sure they're going to issue as you enter, but sometimes it happens that they forget to issue the co-op work permit. So as a student, a new temporary resident of Canada, I hope that you're going to stop at that moment and look and go, I only have one document and I need to. and just gently talk to the office and say, excuse me, according to my offer letter, I also need a co-op work permit, and I wasn't issued one. Could you please issue a co-op work permit as well, so that I can start my placement as soon as I start my studies in Canada? And might have been an error from the office at that point that he or she forgot. But you reminding the officer that you also need a co-op is a good thing. If at the moment they decide they are not going to issue a co-op, which it may happen, or you may forget as well, make sure that you are connecting with us as soon as possible so that we can help you apply for one.
Perfect. There's a question about how do I log into the My Campus site? I'll include the link to our handbook, which has information on how to, log into your My Campus portal. It has also a lot of good information that you will need before you arrive in Canada. So your handbook is very handy. Like, please make sure that you read it. It gives you an idea about your campus community, about life in Canada. A lot of things that you would need to know is all available on there. This question is, are we allowed to work before the start of our program? Suppose our program starts on May 5th, but we arrive early in Canada on April 16th. Can we look for a part-time at that time, or is it prohibited?
Okay, looking is okay. You can look for part-time work, but work, that's a big no-no. At the beginning of the presentation, I mentioned to you that you're not allowed to work until you are studying, right? So the day that marks your first day of classes in Canada, that's when you can actually work. But nothing stop you or prevent you from looking for a job. You can start looking for a job. You just cannot start working. So if you get one, or if you go for an interview, you also need a SIN, right? Remember I mentioned you need a SIN. If you don't have a SIN, you cannot work. So you're going to wait until you get your SIN, and you also have to tell your employer, if they really want to hire you, that they have to wait until you start your studies. And one more thing, 24 hours maximum during the academic session, no more, unless you are on your officially schedule break, then you can go full time.
Perfect. That's a great question.
It is.
Okay, sorry, I'm just going down. So, first aid and CPR, this is not related to the session, but there's a continuing education page on our main Fleming College website, and you will be able to book appointments for first aid and CPR on there, depending on how long, they've made the availability for it. Like, so if you're starting your program in May, if they don't have one, like right after you arrive, I'm sure they'll, as it gets closer, they will make more days available for sessions. When should we expect our timetable? Should we need to upload our study permit, or can we get our timetable before uploading your study permit? Excellent question. We do need your study permit. Please make sure that you are uploading your study permit onto the registration tab on the iCENT app. So I'm hoping that once again, everyone in the session, or if you are in the session and you know somebody who's supposed to be starting in the spring, please make sure you tell your friends as well. You're all supposed to download the iCENT app. Make sure you get an account with iCENT and go on there. You can't break anything. Get yourself familiarized. And once you arrive in Canada, as soon as you get your permit, study permit from the border officer, like Chris said, make sure you take a picture and make a copy. Very important, but make sure you're uploading a copy to the registration tab and giving us your consent, letting us know that you want to be registered. Once you have done that, our admissions team will look through and let you know as you are, in line for a timetable. So this is a question that I'm hoping the team can help me understand, because I'm not too sure. The medical tests you have given will be in my country. Will it be valid in Canada? I'm assuming that's what it means.
So I can probably answer part of this question there. So there are some medical exams that you do with a panel of physician. Those are for immigration purposes. Okay, so those exams are for you to receive that medical IME, Immigration Medical Exam sheet, right? That you're going to present when you come into Canada. Remember, I said it has to be valid, right? For you to enter Canada. Your exams, the ones you have in your country, they are going to be assessed by NARS. So NARS is your non-academic requirement team, and they will tell you which ones are valid or not. What I say to students is, when you come into Canada, make sure that you bring all your vaccinations, everything that you have from your country in English, right? If you have also, for example, documentation for your schools, or maybe you have another degree, right? And you're coming to Canada, make sure that is translated as well when you come, because you may use that later for jobs and things like that, right? So make sure that you bring all documentation that pertains to your health, right, with you, right, and in English.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris. So my program starts this May, and it has an approximate date when it ends, like in December. Okay. But since it's a 1-year program, should my study permit also expire on May 2026?
So for students who are finishing their program, okay, you are going to apply for PGWP after. Your study permit is still valid for that period that you're applying for PGWP, for your post-graduation work permit, okay? You are still considered a student until you receive your completion letter. So you're still a student, your study permit should be valid during that period. Remember, I mentioned to you, in order to apply for anything, co-op work permit, study permit extension, or your PGWP, your study permit needs to be valid, right? And if it's not valid, let's say, for example, your program ends at the end of the month, okay? And so does your study permit, but you still want to apply for PGWP, for post-graduation work permit. It's better to apply for an extension. Why? Because you don't know when you're going to receive your completion letter. It could be 4 weeks, it could be 5 weeks, and you don't want to lose your status. So most students, in this case, they apply for another 90 days for extension, right? To give them time to apply for post-graduation work permit, right? So you want to have your study permit or any of your documentation valid. And some people think, you know what, I'm going to do my placement in 1 semester, and then I'm going to continue usually, another. Does my co-op needs to be extended? Yes, both documents will be extended. They are always extended at the same time. Okay, and as you do one process, you don't need to use another process. You apply at the same time with the same form for both, for the study permit and co-op work permit. Always have your document valid, right?
Perfect. So this is an onshore student. I currently hold a study permit for a program for a different school, and my visa is valid till 30th September 2025. And the application for visa extension is already done. I've received my letter of acceptance for practical nursing. Am I eligible to start my studies this fall while I wait for my extension?
No, you can only start studying when you receive your new study permit that lists Fleming College as your DLI.
Perfect. All right. So yeah, please make sure that you're reading those emails, because we've sent out multiple communications to our onshore and returning students as well. We need that study permit that says Fleming College in order for you to get registered and receive your timetable for spring 2025. I was denied my study permit, and now I have to defer because I might not meet the resumption date. What can I do to maintain my choice of study? So I think if you're looking to defer, from the admission side, if you're looking to submit a deferral, you or your agent should be able to do this on OCAS. So long as you've paid tuition for the first semester, you will be able to click the drop-down menu on OCAS under Offer Actions and click Submit Deferral. Submit the next intake and the program that you would like to be deferred to, and the admissions team will get back to you on an offer for the next upcoming intake pending seat availability. So that is how you can, I guess, maintain your choice of study. I'm not sure if that's answering your question, but please just let us know in the chat. This is another question. Chris, there's an immigration side to this, and there's also another side that I can touch on as well. Can one be pregnant and still a student at Fleming College?
Yes, so you can. However, when you're coming to the immigration, when you applied for Fleming College, did you disclose? I don't know if what happens there is it's would be interesting to see what kind of conversation the officer is going to be with you. So just make sure that you are disclosing your situation when you're coming to Canada, that you are looking for resources as well. I just want to make sure that, let's say, for example, you start your studies and you're pregnant, there is, and you had your baby, let's say you had your baby, you have to take into consideration also, who's going to look after the baby, right? How are you going to be studying and who you're going to leave the baby at home. I know that I haven't had any childcare recently. My son is now 21, so I don't need that, but I know childcare can be expensive in Canada, right? And that may be, I don't know if it's a problem for you, but you have to plan. So before coming to Canada, make sure you're planning, right? And I'm not sure if it's a good idea to travel to Canada pregnant. Maybe it would be better for you to stay home and have your baby at home, right? And before you can even study, that would be a lot of problems. And I'm not sure in terms of how RCC or the CBSA officer would see your pregnancy coming to Canada, being pregnant as well, right? So I would be careful there. So if you're pregnant, or if I was pregnant and I were you, I would have my baby at home with the support of my family, and I would defer my studies because it's going to be hard for you in Canada to come with, or having a baby. Another factor is because there's a more care issue as well, right? That if you're already pregnant and you come into Canada to have a baby, you're going to have to pay for hospital, for your doctors. Let's say you are going to have a C-section. Now your expenses are going to be like really high, and then you have to pay anesthesiologists. So many things. I would not. A baby in Canada, to have a baby in Canada, it can cost a lot of money. So if I were you, I would just have my baby at home, and with the support of your family, with your medical support. I would not travel to Canada being pregnant, and I would defer until I have my baby and then actually apply, correctly. See, are you going to add something else?
Nope, that was everything on my. Sorry, Tracy, go ahead.
No, I was just going to reiterate what Christina said. If you arrive in Canada and you are expecting a baby, so you arrive in Canada pregnant, you're not covered by the MoreCare health insurance. So all of the expenses you would have to incur on your own, but you will not have health insurance coverage for your pregnancy.
Mhm.
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, and immigration wise, they may refuse you. They may refuse you, right? They may deem that you don't have the supports necessary to be in Canada, right? That you maybe don't have your family to be here, that you won't have medical care, that you're going to be, in stress, right? So I would not travel to Canada if I were you. I would stay, have my baby with my family, support of my family, then defer your program, then apply again. That's what I would do if I were you. I would not risk to come to Canada and try to enter being pregnant.
Yeah, and like Chris said, the wait list for childcare is very, very high. Like there's a huge waiting period, and yeah, we definitely advise against against that. Failing a course is considered a part-time student? Not always.
Yeah, so as I said, it's important that you check when you start your studies. Go to the website where your program is. Actually, let's put the website link there. Go to your program and then click on semesters. And then go one course by course, clicking to check if that course is mandatory or not. If the course is mandatory and is a prerequisite for the second semester, those are the courses that you should not be failing, that you should put all your efforts to be passing, because that will help you continue your studies, right? And those are probably courses that are not offered in every semester. So now, if you don't have that course completed and you cannot move on, you may end up being part-time. But not always that you fail a course, you're going to be part-time. You're going to have, and I'll say, 70% of the course load to be a full-time, right? But you don't want to be in a situation where you're not completing all the courses you need, because sometimes they are not offered right away. And now this is going to become a problem in the future, right? For future courses. So as I mentioned to you, key for international students, it is to study, right? The work is secondary, and we do have the supports to help you while you're here. Do not cheat, do your assignments, put effort into studying and passing your courses, be a great student. This is only going to be a reward for you in the end, because you're going to be great for employees. They're going to look at your transcript and go see your marks and say, wow, this person is really outstanding, right? So try to be the best you can be, right? What they teach you hear is not even, is not even what you're going to need to be a professional. It's just the basis. The rest will be with you in the field, learning from other professionals as well. So the more you can learn when you're here, the best you can be, the best you can dedicate yourself to your studies, the better professional you're going to be. And then you're going to be in a workforce where you're going to be one that's going to be desirable, right? They're going to look at your resume and go, wow, this student was really outstanding. I'm going to hire him, right? Or her. So make an effort to be the best you can be. This is an opportunity that you are having that many people around the world do not have. You are fortunate. I was fortunate when I came to Canada. You are too. So make sure this opportunity is your golden opportunity to be a great professional, to study and to succeed and to be the best you can be. That's my message.
All right. I realize like we've gone like 10 minutes over, the the time. There's just one more question I think that we can quickly finish. I'm here in Canada. My studies will complete this April in 2025. I have gotten admission to the nursing program, paid full fees, and I have a study permit that's valid till 2027 from my current college, which is Langara College in BC. I've also applied to change the DLI for Fleming. So can I start my study in this applied status and register for May 2025 intake?
No, you cannot. Your study permit will need to say Fleming College. Actually, I would like you to come and see me. I'd like to check your documentation. So if you're in Canada and you can come see me, great. If you cannot, can you email your document to me? And I'm gonna, if you could just send me a private message, because you can, just send me a private message with your email, and we'll verify. But you have to receive your new document.
Perfect. Okay. All right. So I think a lot of the questions, Chris, I think we've answered. Some of them are the information's available on the program page. We will have another session tomorrow, everyone. It's called Life on Campus Communities, where we'll talk about your campuses, the areas that you're going to live in. We're going to talk about transit. We're going to talk about student clubs. So please make sure to come and join us. We have sent you the link, and if you haven't received the links, or if you've been missing out on any of the emails, please just send us an email to international@flemingcollege.ca and we can get in touch with you. And just once more, just a quick reminder, once the session is done, you will receive another pop-up message with a survey that asks you what you thought about the session today. So you'll have an opportunity to tell us what you thought. And if there's feedback or if there's anything else that you think we could include to make the session better for new students that are coming in. So please make sure that you are, doing the survey to let us know. And did the team have anything else to add for today?
Just feel free to join us again tomorrow. There are some really great questions that maybe don't necessarily pertain to immigration, but for example, tomorrow talking about, our campus communities and things like that. So just keep coming back and we will get to your questions.
That's right. Yes. And thank you so much for attending. And tell your friends to watch the recordings. If you arrived late, there's a lot of information in the beginning of the recording and the scenarios that we went through. Make sure that you watch it. Okay. This is one of those sessions that if you don't watch it and you miss it, you're going to come to us the end of the semester telling me you didn't know. And that's not an excuse. Okay. All the information is there for you and you should know. All right. It's your responsibility. All right. Thank you so much. And I will see you around.
All right. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.